Welcome to the Ice Guys, presented by National Hockey Now, Sunday, October 2030. In Cameron, Alex B. Smith, ready for a Sunday slate with 5 games on tap on this Sunday. A big change from last week when we had, how many games? Oh, yeah, none last week on the Sunday card. But we got 5 today. That's why we're on. We didn't even have a show last Sunday because there were no games taking place. But we have 5 games today on the Sunday slate. We are looking forward to breaking those down. Before that, though, let's get into some of yesterday's action. As always, a loaded Saturday card. It was starting in the afternoon where we saw Boston take care of business. Again, this Bruins team, so impressive considering key personnel, key players out of the lineup, Marchand, multiple defensemen to start the year, and they're still winning games. A nice 5-1 start for the Boston Bruins and a 4-3 overtime win against Minnesota yesterday. Marc-Andre Fleury was sensational. I mean, and that's the hard part about that loss for Minnesota, because you could say the defense and Marc-Andre Fleury's play in net as well has been a little bit spotty early in the year. Can't say that yesterday. He did everything in his power. A great goaltending down the stretch. Got them a point, really, with some big saves in the third period, but end up losing 4-3 on the power play goal for the Bruins. New Jersey gets by San Jose 2-1. St. Louis shuts out Edmonton by a score of 2-0. Very impressive effort from the Blues on the road there. Ottawa pummels Arizona by a score of 6-2. It seems like Arizona's got to try to play Toronto again if they want to win hockey games at this point in time. But they lose to Ottawa 6-2. Toronto with a nice road effort against Winnipeg 4-1. Another great win for performance, by the way, too, from Ilya Samsonov now, who's 4-0 as a starting goaltender for the Leafs. He's looked really good and getting better every game, and which has been good to see. And the Leafs get a nice road performance, just a good team effort there. Nice to see that game had a little nastiness to it as well, which was pretty fun. You like to see that every now and then. Dallas gets by Montreal 5-2. Shout out to my fellow hometown boy from Hamilton, Arbor Jack. Gets his first NHL goal last night for the Montreal Canadiens, albeit in a losing effort. Horrible third period for LA. Terrible. I've had a few of these lately. It was Detroit Friday night. You can't avoid them. Detroit had this one for me on Friday night, a blown lead in the third period, and the LA Kings had one last night. They ended up dropping a 2-0 lead, and they end up losing 4-3 to the Washington Capitals. Not very good. Islanders still can't beat Tampa. They lose 5-3. Tampa now starting to put it together. A couple wins in a row now on back-to-back days. Pittsburgh roars past Columbus 6-3 after a rough first period. Again, that defense and that goaltending of Columbus rearing their ugly head again. It's just that's going to be their downfall this year. I think it's going to be tough for them to keep the puck out of the net. And we saw it again last night in that game. How about the Philadelphia Flyers? Another win for this team. I mean, 3-1 against Nashville. Great performance by Carter Hart. Again, defensively, they were pretty solid in front of their goaltender, and they capitalized on the chances they got against Nashville, who continue to just flounder. This has been brutal, Alex, for Nashville. They now still are stuck on 2 wins that both came in Prague against San Jose, one of the worst teams in the NHL. So do we start warming up that hot seat for John Hines? That's the question you have to ask yourself. But this has been a really rough stretch of hockey for the Predators as well. Colorado bounces back from a tough back-to-back set of losses at home to beat Vegas 3-2 last night against the Golden Knights. A real solid performance. And you talk about how the Islanders can't beat Tampa. It's starting to feel like Vegas can't beat Colorado, especially in key games, and Colorado gets the victory there. Calgary with a 3-2 overtime win against Carolina to cash my best bet on the show. Great effort from them, and after a bad start, fell behind early. But they really tightened it up defensively after that. Markstrom, after a shaky start, was really good the last 2 periods, and they get the game-winning goal courtesy of Tyler Toffoli in overtime for the 3-2 win. And a shout-out to Johnny Cash for helping me cash that best bet last night on the show. And we got to wrap it up with the last game, and I saved it for last. It's more misery for the Vancouver Canucks. And last night might have been rock bottom, Alex. 5-1 loss to Buffalo. Although, look, Buffalo's the real deal in my opinion. Maybe I'm jumping the gun, but not real deal in terms of, wow, they're going to be a playoff team and Stanley Cup contender. Real deal in terms of you got to show up every night to play the Buffalo Sabres. It's not a free 2 points anymore playing that team. They were loaded with young forward talent. We see it every night. Alex Tuck has been just a monster for them lately. Rasmus Dahlin is now making his case to be in the Norris Trophy conversation with the kind of start he's had for the Sabres from the blue line. You've got J.J. Peterka. You've got Tage Thompson. You've got a ton of young Jack Quinn hasn't even really gotten going yet up front for the Sabres, but they have just a great plethora of young players that are going to only get better as they play as a unit, as a collective team over the course of time. And for Vancouver, look, I thought they came out strong. Even though they fell behind 2-0, they had a great first 10 minutes. They could have scored. They didn't. Buffalo ends up with a 2-0 lead. That was a listless third period, though, from the Canucks. That was horrible. Once they got behind 3-1 with that odd man rush, it was like they didn't mount any sort of push to try to get back into that game. And the crowd sensed it, turned on the team. Jerseys being thrown. I still don't like that. Jerseys being thrown on the ice. I really don't. I know you're upset. It's been a horrible start to the season, but Alex and I have harped on this for years. Is Alex going to be pissed off at times with the way the Chicago Blackhawks play? Yes, but is he going to throw his jersey on the garbage or on the ice or set it on fire or any of this bullshit?
No fucking way. No.
Of course not. You got to try to it's tough times for Vancouver. I get it. It's been really not the kind of start to the season you wanted or you expected, but you got to be loyal. All right. You got to stand by the team, good and bad. Can't be doing that. It's a bad look on you as a fan, as far as I'm concerned. But tough loss again for Vancouver, and the wheels keep on spinning in terms of what may happen if the struggles continue for this team. Alex, what did you think of Saturday's NHL action?
So yeah, a lot of changes I got to make with my power rankings and charts and stuff. I made a first kind of round of changes. The second round, definitely. Now that we've gotten the full weekend and things will kind of solidify out, shake out. One of the biggest things that bugged me, and if you're new to the program, you probably haven't heard me talk about this, but if you're a regular, you've certainly heard me harp about teams with power play and how certain teams, they have all the talent in the world, they get out of their own way with the man advantage. That was none truer for the Boston Bruins in that game. I mean, they finally won on a power play goal by Taylor Hall, but man, did they look abysmal with a ton of chances to put that game away in OT with the 4-on-3 overtime. And for whatever reason, they kept keeping a body right in front of Fleury, but not too close, not too far. And they're trying to, pass the puck as if he's going to be the guy to make a shot on Fleury. As well as he played, do you think that Fleury's going to get beat right in front of him with a goal in overtime? It just didn't make any sense to me how Montgomery and company didn't make that switch over. That Taylor Hall ended up finding the back of the net in due time. But, because you had a second power play, you should have ended that 30 seconds in the OT. It shouldn't have been a final with 30 seconds left in overtime. So that kind of frustrated me. And they took a ton of penalties to let Minnesota into that game. And even when Minnesota had the chance, they tied it up. They had ample chances to take the lead and possibly win that game in regulation. They just sat on it. So I'm not really happy with what I saw from Minnesota or Boston, even though I won the bet. That's the thing. That's the importance of handicapping any sport, but especially hockey, is that, yes, I got the result I wanted. But you can still, have a completely unbiased viewpoint and an assessment of two teams, despite how your wager comes out. And like I said, I didn't like what I saw from Boston still. I'm really not liking what I'm seeing from Minnesota, obviously, as someone who picked them to possibly win the Western Conference. So another game, too, that I watched closely and did lose a bet on. And it's so unfortunate now. Like I said, these first period overs that aren't cashing, but full game overs flying through the roof because teams are slowing down in the first and making those adjustments in the second period. They're doing what they have to do. I understand that, but it's just been frustrating as someone who bets these, to see the numbers match up where this Kings and Capitals. That was a great first period look. The way that those two teams were playing, their high danger chances, the way that the Kings have been getting hot starts in the first period on this road trip. And I wondered, okay, this is the end of a road trip that's been very successful. Maybe they lay a little bit of an egg. And they did late in the game. They lost 4-3. But Washington, I mean, we have to keep downgrading them. They look terrible. They still are slow of foot. They still aren't shooting the puck cleanly. Their goals only come in waves when they can catch a team kind of off balance or off position, but they are not good right now. And the fact that they, the only reason they came back to win that game is because LA just looked dead dog tired in the third. It's the end of a road trip. And now, you kind of wonder, will LA be able to bounce back coming home off a successful trip against the defending Cup champions in Tampa Bay? I don't know. I was looking at that angle when we talked about the game yesterday, but at this point now, I may want to look to fade LA one more time, and then they get things back rolling in gear because they just looked very fatigued. And we're going to start seeing that now. We talk about how the back-to-backs don't matter so much in the first couple of weeks, but when you start talking about these long road trips, and a lot of teams have long road trips, Minnesota's on their season-long trip right now. Of course, we'll talk about how Arizona, they go home for 4. They're going to be back on the road for another 18 games after that. So we have to start looking at these scheduling spots a little bit more as the games now start to wear on as we get closer to November.
Yeah, there's no question, and it's it's a great reminder too with some of the bets that don't go your way that you have to do the analysis, the post-mortem, if you will, and you're going to realize you made good bets that don't win. All right, that's going to happen. But the thought process and the reasoning behind it still made sense. And it's a great point about the road trips. We're going to see 6, 7, 8 game road trips this year, and those are going to be a bitch to really have these teams play that good game when they return home for that first game. And we're going to see multiple instances of that, and very good to be mindful of when those spots occur and when they pop up throughout the course of the NHL season. No question. And one other thing that I think I might recommend to people too is start incorporating team totals, in some of your bets here moving forward, because there's been instances already this year where I lose a money line bet because a team blows a lead. This has happened multiple times. Whereas if I had bet a team total on that team instead, I would have won still, an over team total. So I'm going to start, and I'm going to do this actually with one of the games on today's card. We'll get to it later on, where I actually have a bet on the side, but I also have split it up with a team total over as well. So that, okay, maybe this team does what I expect them to do and score the 4 goals they need to go over their team total. But I don't want them to be in a situation where they blow a lead, which has happened a couple times this week, and they lose 5-4, where the team total cashes, and I had the whole stake on the money line. That loses, where I could have also had the team total over, and at least if I split it up, I'm basically breaking even. Worst case scenario. So a team total side split is going to be something I'm looking to do more often as we go forward.
Yeah, that's a very great point. I mean, look no further than Pittsburgh and Columbus. If you have the over team total on either team, you cash. But we saw Columbus come out to a rip roaring start, and then Pittsburgh, settled in and became Pittsburgh again. They took over and dominated. It was a 6 unanswered to win that game. So I had that team total over, and had I looked at the side, I would have still been fortunate with Pittsburgh. But like I said, to lay that kind of juice, and all of a sudden you see your team down, 3-0, and that's also why the importance of betting live is big too, because we're seeing these big swings. Look at that Boston Ottawa game last weekend where we saw 3 goals in a row for Ottawa, 3 goals in a row for Boston, 3 more goals in a row for Ottawa, 2 more for Boston. So we're seeing these swings now, and we're seeing the offense start to come alive in this first week as well. We saw a lot of overs now, where we're seeing kind of teams playing and looking a little bit slower, a little bit more defensive minded. Now the offenses are starting to click and get into a rhythm. So that's definitely a great point. You might want to start looking at team totals just as often as you do money line sides.
Yeah, because we have seen a lot of leads not safe. And that's important. So that's why it's definitely, it's like I said, that's something that I have done on one of the games we're going to get to today. I've split it between a side, and a team total wager on that team. So we will get to that as we start breaking down the Sunday card, which we will begin doing right now, starting with the Seattle Kraken taking on the Chicago Blackhawks. We've got Seattle minus 150 road favorites here, 6 the total across the board. Certainly give Chicago credit for some resilience on Friday night. That didn't start well against Detroit, down 2-0 early, but they rally back in their home opener and get the job done against Detroit. It really, I sensed that the penalty shot was going to maybe be a turning point in that game, and it really proved to be that way. It was a chance for, as we talked about on the show yesterday briefly, a chance for Nedeljkovic, come up big. He probably should have had it against the Tennessee. We didn't, and it really woke up to Chicago and really got Detroit on their heels a little bit. You give the Blackhawks credit, though. They've won 2 in a row. We don't know how many long win streaks they'll have this season. We'll see if they can make it 3 in a row here to this afternoon. This is a 2 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. local time start in Chicago. So a very early start time here. Seattle off a 3-2 victory against Colorado, plus 200 underdogs they were in that game. if you look at their expected goals and Corsi and all that, and just carrying the play, they've done that the last 2 games. The loss against St. Louis, they deserved a better fate, in my opinion. The 4-3 loss, they outplayed the Blues there. They certainly not just outplayed Colorado, they outplayed Colorado heavily in that game. It didn't look like the Avalanche, to be quite honest with you, that game Friday night when they lost to Seattle. But give the Kraken credit for how they were able to bottle up that Colorado team. Offensively, it was one of Philip Grubauer's better games. Finally, he stepped up with a better performance in net as well. Blackhawks fan in one of our group chats the other night said, maybe we got to consider Alex Stalock for the Vezina right now. Well, let's calm down a little bit here. But I will say this here. He's had a nice start. He played well in the Vegas game. Remember, he started the Vegas game. They lost 1-0. He actually played pretty well. He enters the game against Detroit on Friday night for Mrazek, who, shocking, is hurt again. And Stalock comes in and plays well. 10 saves, 10 shots, 10 saves, shuts the door, gives Chicago a chance to come back and win that game. And I would expect him to be in net here this afternoon for the Blackhawks. Can he keep this up is the question, but so far so good. 0.74 goals against and 979 save percentage. Those numbers have nowhere to go but down. We know that. But right now, he's gotten off to a solid start. So we'll see how this goes. I don't have a feel for this game either way. I mean, I'd probably lean Seattle, but not at minus 150 on the road in an early game where, look, this is going to be even tougher for Seattle, probably for a West Coast team playing this early, 2 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Central. So I'm going to pass on this early start affair. Alex, Kraken, Blackhawks.
Well, my jersey should probably give away what I'm looking at here today. I like Seattle here in regulation. You mentioned the start time. This is a really odd start time for the Hawks. Usually when they play Sundays, it's either 6 p.m., maybe the 12:30 starts back in the day when they were, a good team and got the, the old
NBC slot. Yeah.
Right. So a 1 o'clock start, that's just kind of very odd for them. And they're doing that mainly because the Bears aren't playing today. They play tomorrow night. So, Seattle already been on the road. The internal time clock shouldn't be much of an issue. If anything, they were already in an hour behind being in Colorado and adjust. So that's not an issue for me there. But the Hawks historically get off 2 bad starts on Sundays and play terrible at home on Sundays. This is going back to the dynasty days in the early 2010s and even further back if you want to go into the 2000s and the 90s when they were bad. So there's just been something about the United Center. It's been a house of horrors for their own team on Sundays. That being said, too, Seattle, obviously, their offense is rocking and rolling right now. They get to face Alex Stalock, yes, he did a wonderful job of only allowing 1 goal in Vegas. Wonderful job coming in relief, playing 1 period. But again, that's also against the Detroit team that's missing some offensive stars. They weren't really moving the puck well, weren't getting a lot of quality shots off. If anything, Mrazek, a couple of those goals that he let in were kind of soft as well as the goals that Ned let in. He said with that penalty shot and the goals later to tie that game up. So not putting too much stock in the Stalock just yet. He's looking better than I thought. He's not right now. He's not the worst backup in the NHL, and mainly because his backup is the worst backup in the NHL, Arvid Soderblom. So that's somebody we're going to be looking to fade as well once we see him get into games, which I believe will be in due time because Mrazek's growing. They're saying it's day to day, but I talk about this all the time with goaltenders and groin issues. It's like pitchers with shoulder issues in baseball. When they flare up, they don't always just go away right away. And Mrazek's had his history with groin issues. That's been his most frequent injury in his career. So that's definitely problematic. Somebody in the chat mentioned earlier about Patrick Kane to score. I would look for that because he's been awfully quiet of late. I could see him maybe starting to get things turned around. Of course, Matty Beniers has been lights out for the Kraken. You have to look at him while you're still getting good value with him because at some point he's going to start getting priced like the Patrick Kanes of the world, and we're going to have to lay a price for him to get a point where you won't be able to get anything better than plus 150 or plus 180 for him to score a goal. So those are some player props that I would just kind of look at. And I actually would take a shot here with this first period over. I think this is all a cheap price at minus $1.30. I think we could see Seattle sneak in a couple of goals here, take a 2-0 lead, or like say if the Hawks can come out with a solid first period, maybe match up and tie this one at 1-1 heading into the intermission. So I'm going to take a shot here with first period over 1.5 at minus 130. It's funny that we're calling that a cheap price nowadays when that used to kind of be the ceiling. And I'm also going with the Kraken at even money in regulation.
I want Luke Richardson to do well. I do. I think he was a good defenseman in his day as well. And I think he's done a great job in coaching circles. Everywhere he's gone as an assistant prior to getting the head job here with Chicago, everyone raved about just how good he was working with players. And I'd like to see it go well for him. But obviously, it's going to be a tough road this season, but certainly a couple wins in a row going to have Chicago feeling better. I would really love to know who is feeding Kyle Davidson, the GM of this team, the medical intel. All right. I would really love to know who is giving him this medical advice on players they're considering signing, because I'm convinced these medical people with Chicago that fed him the intel that it's a good idea to throw some money and sign Peter Mrazek have the IQ and the intelligence of a raisin. All right. That's what I think. I mean, you're not splitting the atom figuring out this guy's had groin issues. He had them in Toronto. He's had them for a couple of years now, and they keep on flaring up. They keep on coming back. And sure enough, what is this injury? Oh, yeah, it's the groin again. To me, it's just it's. Could you not see read the tea leaves? Could you not see the writing on the wall that this guy's had major issues keeping himself healthy, and particularly that part of his body's just consistently hurt over and over and over again. It just makes you think. I mean, what on earth possessed you to really go after Mrazek like that?
This is an old Wartian move from the days of dollar bill. This is bargain bin shopping and trying to hope for, the resurgence and rehab of an old player. The Hawks have done this for literally my entire life. So, and further back than that. So let's just say the last 40 years, they've done this where they've tried to go back to even when they signed Bob Probert, Theo Fleury. They've always looked for bargain bin guys who have had issues health-wise or otherwise and tried to turn them back around for the sake of saving a few bucks. And that's exactly what they did with Peter Mrazek. In fact, it's even worse because they traded draft picks away to get him on draft night. They didn't even sign him as an outright free agent. So it's typical classic Hawks move, honestly, in doing that. And they're already paying for it right now in the first week.
It's unbelievable. Can't even get out of the first month of the season. Can't even get out of October without that groin injury, those groin issues coming to the forefront again. And keep in mind, this thing could be weeks, could be days, could be weeks, could even be months. That's what it is with the groin. I mean, just ask Freddie Anderson 2 years ago and how that's gone for him. So it's just if you're right. It's got to be that, hey, we want to save money, and we're in a position where we have to save money. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to sign a guy that's damaged goods. Yeah. And already again,
veterans who are at the twilight of their career, Stalock, guys who've had injury issues, Mrazek. You mentioned in the chat, Cam Ward at the end of his career, Nikolai Hobby-Bullen the second time he came around. There's Paul Coffey way back in the day, Doug Gilmour. There's been issues like this where the Hawks have tried to get big name free agents who are way over the hill or guys who've had injury issues, hoping that and the funniest thing of it all too is that, like I said, they've had the same trainers and medical staff for the last 40, 45 years. What's funny about that is that the medical staff has actually been fired once before back in the late 90s. You can look this up. I won't go into the entire details, but basically a bunch of injuries happened during a playoff series against Colorado in the mid 90s. And Bill Wirtz himself fired the medical staff, only to end up rehiring them a few months later because they couldn't find anybody else in time. Being upset about how they, let one of the players who had an injury go to a hospital in Colorado instead of having him flying back to Chicago to see their own doctors. And it's mostly a money play. It's not even just, we have the best care in the world. It's far from it. So it's definitely an issue that you can't factor it into your daily handicapping, but you can always kind of look and circle. And when you see these kind of free agent signings, these kind of veteran signings, and we talked about it in the beginning of the season. We said, this goaltending, can it hold up? We talked about him, Mrazek and Stalock. Stalock's had his injury issues as well and health issues recently. So those are things you have to look at from a general overview going into a season.
Yeah, no question about that. I do want to mention we've got some shakeups with the lineup for Seattle where Morgan Geekie's moving up to the second line center spot. So keep an eye on that name. Maybe a prop worth a look there. Again, moving up the lineup, things we like. Danton Heinen, I mentioned him moving up to the top line. The guy gets 2 goals last night for the Pittsburgh Penguins. So great situations to be aware of when players move up the lineup. New York Islanders, Florida Panthers, Florida minus 200, home favorite, 6.5 the total. I like Florida in regulation here a little bit. The Islanders off a back-to-back. A tough loss to Tampa Bay. What else is new? They just can't beat that team. I mean, it's just pretty crazy how much the Lightning have just sent agony and distress to the New York Islanders over the years. But another defeat to Tampa. last night. Now they're on a back-to-back. Florida rest advantage. Florida losing to Tampa Bay as well their last game, but that came on Friday night at home. So they will probably be looking to bounce back here. I have not bet, Alex, the Florida Panthers at all this year. Not once. This would be the first time I'm doing so, but I think it makes sense to do so. You can get minus 120 at Pinnacle with the Florida Panthers in regulation. I think they take care of business here. And look, the Islanders' only 2 wins were at home against San Jose and Anaheim. So, we're starting to question, are the Islanders capable of beating good hockey teams right now? We're not so sure about that based on the evidence that we've been presented with right now. Offensively, it's always a little shaky for them. I think what's been kind of stunning with the Islanders is against better competition. We've seen Sorokin and Varlamov, the goaltending, be mediocre at best, and we've seen their defensive play kind of slough off and decline and not be that lockdown, airtight New York Islander blue line that we have seen, obviously, for many seasons, particularly under Barry Trotz. And keep in mind now, you got Lane Lambert there, and Lane Lambert's a Trotz disciple, coached under Trotz for years as an assistant, but there's still that question. Is he going to have that same exact defensive system that's going to be implemented perfectly by the players to the level that Trotz had it at? So far, the answer is no, because this has definitely not been as good a defensive team here in the first couple of weeks of the season. So I like Florida here to bounce back with the rest advantage in regulation, minus 120. Alex, Islanders, Panthers.
Yeah, slight lean with Florida in regulation as well. This won't make my card officially. And I was trying to look back to see, it's interesting because we've already had a matchup with these two teams just 10 days ago. So this is actually, I think this is the first matchup of the entire season where we've seen a second meeting between two clubs. So, now that we're getting into that angle, we can start kind of looking more into trends and different things. So, where right now it's just been kind of a bunch of one-off games. So that's something I wanted. So I want to watch this game closely and see what differences have arose from the first time they met as opposed to now. We saw that was a 3-1 win for Florida. Florida has now won the last 4 regular season meetings and 5 of the last 6 overall. So just a slight lean. Like I said, $1.20. That's about as cheap as you're going to find in Florida these days. Even though they aren't playing at the same kind of furious pace and tempo from last year, they're still getting a lot of respect from the bookmakers.
Looks like we might see the kid Spencer Knight potentially in goal for the Panthers. They're hinting we might see him today, even though Bobrovsky got the start. And Bobrovsky played okay, actually, in that, even though they lost to Tampa the other night. But Amirin, we might see, or Paul Maurice might opt to go with Spencer Knight in goal. Sorokin obviously was in goal yesterday against Tampa Bay for the Islanders. So you would think Semyon Varlamov here on a back-to-back will get the start for the Islanders here this afternoon against the Panthers. All right, next up, we've got Columbus and the New York Rangers. New York Rangers opened as low as minus 195, minus 200 in this game. They're now minus 280, and it's minus 300 is starting to show up in some spots. So huge move, almost a full dollar, 80 cents at least worth of movement toward the New York Rangers here. 6.5 the total. Spot-wise, you can understand it. Columbus back-to-back. Columbus disappointing, after a good start against Pittsburgh, could not sustain it for 60 minutes, lose to the Penguins last night. Rangers off a couple of days now. Actually, since Thursday. So they've had 2 days off. And that was their a disappointing, disheartening loss, 3-2 in overtime to, let's call it what it is, one of the worst teams in the NHL. That's not going to sit well with Gerard Gallant and this Rangers team. So I'd expect a strong bounce-back effort. This team hasn't lost 2 in a row yet this year. When we talk about our elite teams in the NHL, Rangers, Colorado, Calgary, teams like that, we like backing them off a loss. We trust teams like this off a loss. We trust them to show the ability to want to put a bad performance behind them. That's why they're elite teams. So I think you've got a good chance to see that here from the New York Rangers going into this game. The one thing that's kind of interesting is here at Madison Square Garden, believe it or not, the Jackets have won 4 of the last 5. Against the Rangers. It's pretty peculiar that that's been the case, but they're on a back-to-back here. Justin Danforth, by the way, who's been a nice little depth forward for the Jackets this year. 2 goals, 1 assist, upper body injury suffered last night. May not go. He's day-to-day for the Jackets going into this game. We should see Danil Tarasov, by the way, in net here in this game for the Jackets after we saw Elvis last night in that game. And, of course, we haven't seen Tarasov, I believe, in a start since Tampa Bay on October 14th. Remember, he got back-to-back starts to begin the year, Tarasov, because Elvis Merzlikins was under the weather early in the year. So he got the first 2 starts for Columbus in net against Carolina and Tampa Bay. Gave up 9 goals in those 2 starts, and his numbers for the year: 0-2, 4.5 goals against average, 890 save percentage. So not very good from Tarasov. But again, it's the whole group for Columbus where defensively they're having a tough time keeping pucks out of their own net. You look at their results; they have given up. Have they given up 3 goals in every game this year? I'm pretty sure they have. They have. They've given up 3 goals to the opponent in every single game this season. So I think the Rangers probably have a very good chance to add to that here. I like the Rangers' first period puck line here. That's what I like. That's what I'm going to go with here as far as the side goes. This is the game, by the way, that I was talking about earlier, where I'm going to go with Rangers -0.5 around +112 for first period puck line. That's probably one of the best numbers and prices you can get with that. Yeah, +112 for Rangers -0.5 in the first period. And I'm also going to go with you got to lay some juice here at Pinnacle with this one. But I think they absolutely get to 4 goals. I think it's a very, very high positive expectation bet. New York Rangers team total over 3.5 -162. Again, you got to lay some juice, but I think it's chalk worth laying in this matchup. I expect the Rangers to get 4 past this reeling Blue Jacket defense. Tarasov, a 4.5 goals against coming into this game in 2 starts this year. So I like the Rangers' chances of getting at least 4 goals this afternoon. So Rangers team total over 3.5 -162, and also Rangers first period puck line for me -0.5 +112. Alex, Jackets, and Rangers.
Yeah, we're looking at the exact same things. I love this Rangers first period puck line, but here's the thing about that team total. There's a bunch of different ways you can approach this. You don't have to necessarily lay 160, 165. You can go with, depending
4.
on your book.
Yep.
Yeah, you can go at 4. And of course, if it lands right on 4, you push. But you can go at 4. Give yourself a little bit of a better price. You can also go team total regulation time 3.5. I saw one place where you're only laying 145 with that spot. If you think this is going to be a game that the Rangers dominate and win within 60. So you can go with that prop as well. You can also try to even go with exact score. Maybe go 4-2, 4-1, 5-2, 5-1, things of that nature. So there's a couple different ways you can do that without having to lay heavy juice. If you're a better that's kind of adverse from looking at juice, I know I am. Anything in the 155, 160 range kind of scares me off a little bit, but there's other ways to approach it. But I definitely love and shop around too with this first period puck line, because I'm seeing discrepancies of +108 to +110 to where you have to lay $1.05. So it's important to have multiple outs for these kind of derivative and prop wagers. I was able to grab 108, so I'm going to go Rangers first period puck line. Like I said, Jackets struggling, Tarasov more than likely getting the start. And even though they've had success against the Rangers, they're going to kind of be aware of that and say, hey, we got to come out here and play with a little bit of more gusto, and they shouldn't have too much of a difficult time with this Columbus team right now.
And Kaapo Kakko to score a goal. Back on that train again today for the New York Rangers. We got a pattern developing, Alex, with Kakko. 0-1, 0-1-0 in the first 5 games in terms of whether he scored or not. So he's basically not gone more than a game without scoring. So he didn't score against San Jose in that loss. I like him to score today against the Columbus Blue Jackets. So there you go. That's my player prop that I like the most in this game for the Rangers. And he continues to play, by the way, on their top line. Anaheim, Detroit. We've got Detroit -135, home favorite, 6.5 being the total in this game. Really tough road trip. 0-4 now in this road trip for the Anaheim Ducks. Islanders, Rangers, Devils, and Bruins losing all 4 games. So it's been a tough road trip for this Anaheim team. They're probably looking forward to bouncing back and or looking forward to getting home, I should say, at this point. The Anaheim Ducks after this game here against Detroit. Red Wings coughed it up late against the Chicago Blackhawks. Again, held a 3-1 lead going into the third period. Chicago ties it and ends up winning in overtime. It'll be interesting to see in this game. I would expect, because Nedeljkovic was not as good as I thought he could have been down the stretch. of the loss to the Chicago Blackhawks on Friday night. I think we'll see Ville Husso. We don't have confirmed goalies for this game yet. Anaheim, Detroit, even though this is a late afternoon start at 5 p.m. Eastern time in Detroit. But I would think we're going to, if I had to guess, I think Derek Lalonde is going to end up putting Ville Husso in net for the Red Wings here in this game. I certainly would only look toward the Detroit side here in this game, minus 135. I'm on the fence. I want to see who's in net exactly before I pull the trigger. If it's Husso, I'll probably will be on Detroit minus 135 here in this game. But obviously, it's been a brutal road trip for Anaheim. They're probably going to want to try to salvage one game, but I just don't know they're in a position where they're playing well enough at the moment to be able to salvage one game on this road trip in the win column, and that's been the struggles. And last game or most of the road trip, it's been their defensive play. Giving up 7 to the Islanders, 6 to the Rangers, 4 to New Jersey. Hey, they finally played better defensive hockey against Boston, and then suddenly the offense dries up. It's the old Mikey O thing going on with the Anaheim Ducks, where defense is falling apart on this road trip. Then they try to overcompensate for the defensive struggles. Now they can't put a puck in the net, and that's exactly what happened against Boston. Shades of Mikey O and his philosophies that have gone down the crapper over the years. But nevertheless, I lean Detroit. It's the only side I would look at. I'm just waiting on the goalie confirmations and the lineups to go ahead and lock that in. Alex, what do you think here, Anaheim, Detroit?
Yeah, this is my draw play for today. I like this at plus. You can find anywhere between plus 340 and plus 350. And it's all for all the points that you touched on. One, Anaheim, like you said, kind of doing the Mike Yeo thing where, the offense drying up as a result to try to overcompensate and work on defense. You got Detroit who, I'd like to think they come out pissed off after blowing a lead to the Hawks. But like I said, at the same time, we talked about how deep that rivalry is. It may not sting as much nowadays because of the fact that they're out of conference and they just chalk it up as another bad loss where they blew a lead, not necessarily a loss against a rival and use that kind of way to fire themselves up. It's an odd start time, 4:00, end of a road trip for Anaheim. They've played poorly. You think they would want to come out with a little bit more oomph and gusto right now and try to get things rolling in their favor. Any 4 goalie combinations you give me in this matchup, I still like the draw. If it's Gibson and Husso, if it's Stolars and Husso, or either one of those guys against Ned, I still feel the draw is live here. 3 straight games have gone to OT or shootout for the last 6 meetings. So at a plus 340 price, I'm going to go with the regulation draw.
I'm going to add the over as well as in this game at 6.5. I'm going to go ahead with that for sure as well. End of a road trip especially for a West Coast team that's in the East, I could see really dead legs and mental mistakes. That's what I find when it's been a long road trip, especially for the West Coast team going east. And you could see that. And again, I find the fatigue leads to defensive lapses, defensive miscues, turnovers with the puck, breakdowns in communication and coverage defensively. All those things I think are characteristics of teams that have been on the road for a very long time and are at the very end of their road trip. And I think you're going to see that here from Anaheim. So I'm going to go with over 6.5 as well. Detroit's gone over in 3 straight games. 3 straight Detroit games have gone over the total. Anaheim on this road trip prior to the Boston-Anaheim game, you saw 2 of the 4 games on the road trip did go over the total. New Jersey and Anaheim stayed under. It should have went over. If you watch that game, there were a million quality chances. There should have probably been more than 6 goals in that Devils-Ducks game earlier this week. So I'm going to go ahead with the over as well, with Anaheim, Detroit over 6.5. All right, final game of this Sunday card, San Jose Sharks, Philadelphia Flyers. Philadelphia minus 130, home favorites, 6 the total in this game. I'm at the point, Alex, where I've had to pivot. And when you're a handicapper, you're a bettor in any sport, and you have an opinion on a team, and at least so far through the first 2 weeks, that opinion on the team is dead wrong. And my opinion on Philly being the worst team in the NHL is clearly not the case right now. You have to be willing to pivot. And you're a better sports bettor doing that. Pivoting when your initial opinion and read on a team is off the mark. And that's what I've done here with Philadelphia. And I was able to take advantage and pivot last night, took them for the first time this year, plus 190 against Nashville. And they end up getting a nice 3-1 road victory in that game against Nashville. Now, you do have a situation where both of these teams did play yesterday. So it's a back-to-back for both teams, but San Jose obviously played in New Jersey, very close to Philly in the afternoon, an early game, whereas Philly is in Nashville at night. And so now they've got to travel a little bit more to get back. So it is definitely a little mini advantage for San Jose. Not a whole lot because both teams did play yesterday, but it is a small advantage for San Jose. But, they've got the magic going. They've still got just that one loss on the season, the Philadelphia Flyers against Florida, in a tough spot on a back-to-back. Their defensive play has been great. Carter Hart has been excellent so far, and I think he is benefiting from Torts, Alex, as much, if not more, than anybody on this Flyers team because they're playing with some structure. They're playing with some commitment to defense, something that Flyers teams last year did nothing of under Mike Yeo. Nothing. There was no commitment to defense. There was no structure at all. It was breakdown city in the defensive zone. You're just not seeing that. You're seeing a 5-man unit every shift on the ice under John Tortorella, which is what he demands, playing defense right now. And they've gotten enough scoring. I still don't love the offensive upside of this team long term. They are really going to have to be a score by committee hockey team. But right now they're finding enough offense and they're letting their team commitment and structure, which is much improved already from last season to the first 2 weeks of this year, take them and give them a chance to win, on a nightly basis. So I'm passing this game. Like now we're talking though Philly favored, right? It's one thing when you're talking Philadelphia underdog, Philadelphia, getting nice prices, which you've been able to get. I mean, they've already this season cashed as plus 190 dogs, plus 270 dogs, plus 150. They've been big underdogs and cashed some nice tickets. Now they're laying a price. Now they're favored. I'm not betting them as a favorite as much as I like what I'm seeing from the Flyers early this season. I'm not betting San Jose either, so it's a pass. Alex, San Jose, Philly.
Yeah, I like this over 6 at even money. And it was really because I was looking at the first period over. We might get a Felix Sandstrom sighting here. And I've seen this number drop at one place where it's minus $1.20 over 1.5. I do like that. Well, also, we're talking about in the chat about how these second period overs have been really high for most teams in the league, but especially San Jose. So when you're looking at that, the only value you can get out of that would be if you look at BetMGM, you go over 2 at plus 105. Why split those two things up? Just go with the over 6. If they both cash, you're in good shape at an even money price. So it's just more of a better value and a better number for that. But I just think form-wise, he said San Jose is awful. Philadelphia is still going to be bad. It just hasn't hit yet. It's just like the Hawks, give it time. Just like these we're talking about the Rangers and Colorado and Tampa Bay looking sluggish now. Give it time. They will still be at the top of the heap when it's all said and done. These are two of the worst teams in the league. One's looking like it right now. The other one's just kind of a wolf in sheep's clothing for the moment. So looking at the over 6 here at even money.
All right, over 6 for San Jose and Philly, friend. We might see Reimer versus Sandstrom in net. That's the projected goalies right now, but not confirmed as of right now.
If I told you those are the two guys in net, you'd automatically just think over, right?
Yeah. I would agree with that. The only concern is you've got these Philadelphia's trying to play this 3-1-2-1 style of hockey under Tortorella. That's the only fear I would have, but it may not take you may only need 15, 20 shots from each team, to be able to get 2, 3, 4 goals. I mean, against these two netminders. And we're still not totally sold on Felix Sandstrom either, yeah.
Right, and the thing about Tortorella games, hey Vito, how you doing? The thing about Tortorella teams, rather I should say, is that when they do get things rolling offensively, they can keep it going. They're not, like you said, yeah, sure, they like to sit on the lead, but if San Jose is inept defensively, who's to say that, like I said, they have 25 shots, they get 4 goals. Now you only need 2 or 3 on the other way on San Jose. So this definitely feels like it could be a game that opens up a bit more because of the quality of these two teams. If we were talking about a better San Jose team, then yeah, this would probably be an under, and we probably would see this number actually be 5.5. So I think that 6 is shaded for a reason. I think it's got a lot to do with the goaltending and just with how bad overall San Jose is.
Yeah, and we have seen teams trend under both of them. But again, spot 2. And another thing, too, San Jose long road trip coming to an end. That's usually an over spot. I talked about it with Anaheim in the last game against Detroit. Why I think that game, mistakes, you're tired. You've been on the road a long time. You make defensive miscues when you're tired. You could see that from San Jose tonight in this game. So Vito always joins us on the weekends. He's here now, and he's usually right on time, right on time. He's always every week, and but nice to get him join us here today, Vito. Thank you.
Yeah. I had some job going on. I needed to issue some tickets, for my Rush clients. So there was an emergency in the airport, so needed to take care. But yeah, I'm here right now, and
Run through the card. What do you like?
How many games I have missed?
Just go run through the entire card. We're done going through the card, so just rip through every game. What do you like?
All right, so let's start with this one, and then we just talk about the rest of them. So Sharks, Phillies. I mean, yesterday I played Preds, and everyone can please blame me in the chat here as a dumb play. I will take it, but I'm that guy that
problems with Nashville. Yes.
Yeah. Well, I expect that not to see the every same thing in hockey. I mean, it's random, so I was believing that they will play better. In this spot, I don't know what you guys talked about, but I think I like Sharks at plus money. I mean,
I'm off the side. I'm not laying. I like Philly yesterday because of the price. I'm not laying with them as a favorite. I'm not doing that.
I like Sharks here because last two games Sharks has kept pretty close. They won against the Rangers, and Kraken had an amazing game against Devils, and they almost tied it very late. So, and now the Philly are coming off this. Philly's just been on fire lately, So it's gonna be another close one here. I would go actually under 6. That would be my main thing here. I think I actually might end up playing under 6. But who we have in net? It's not Carter Hart, right? So it's
probably going to be Felix Sandstrom for Philly.
And not confirmed, but most likely Sandstrom for Philly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and for Sharks is going to be Reimer, no?
Yes, probably not confirmed, but probably. Yeah.
Give me Sharks on the money line. I think they're gonna. They didn't look too bad. I mean, I think they will be able to handle this Philly team. I think this will be a close one, 1-1, 2-2 game. I think Sharks can get this done in OT. So Sharks on the money line in this one.
All right. There we go. All right. The rest of the card, what do you like? Starting with Seattle, Chicago, and go on down the list. What do you like?
Can you oh, nice. Perfect. Okay. So this game, give me 1 second. I just need to Seattle. This is an early game in Chicago. Oh wow! Well, I was watching at this yesterday. I mean, Seattle is doing great. I mean, but are they doing this great after a big win in Colorado?
That's how I felt about this game. Like, wow, pretty tough.
Yeah. So
Alex likes Seattle.
Alex likes Seattle. Well, Seattle is doing fine, and but again, we have Hawks, also off a back-to-back at home. Seattle off a back-to-back on the road. The price where we are at is plus 130 Hawks at home. So only way I would look at this is Hawks at plus 130 at home.
All right, give me that All right, Islanders, Panthers.
This one I was looking to bet early last night. I was looking at that line. It was like minus 115 Panthers in regulation very early. And I was like thinking, no, it was minus 115. Yeah, Panthers in regulation. And I was thinking like, should I take it? Like, will it fall down? And I was kind of like, well, if Islanders lose to this Tampa team, perhaps they will not want to lose both games, in this Florida, how you call it,
I'm wondering if they're good enough to avoid losing both games. Their only 2 wins are at home against San Jose and Anaheim for this Islanders.
Yeah, that's the thing. That's the thing. So, what's the Florida regulation price at the moment?
I got minus 120 at Pinnacle, and that is a bet of mine. Florida in regulation, minus 120.
Minus 120, and now it's still at minus 120?
Some places have minus 140. Got to shop around. There's a couple books that are lower juiced, and you can get a better price with it. Minus 120 to minus 140 in that range.
Yeah, minus 120 is still there. So it hasn't actually moved a lot, So there is something about this game. Because, let's remember that first game of the season, actually, Islanders lost to Florida 1-3. But it was not like Islanders was very bad in that game. Expected goals, they actually won in that game against the Florida. So I could expect Islanders to be... I would not so hard going. Well, Florida off a loss, obviously, here.
And the rest advantage, yeah.
And the rest advantage. But, I mean, Islanders just now played a good Tampa team, which was pretty good. So I also can see Islanders kind of coming out here and competing decent with them. It's early in the season. But the thing is, Islanders' core is so old. So these back-to-back games might be hard on them. And
all right, so we'll give you a lean for Florida in regulation, right?
No.
Nope.
That's not my lean. I would.
No.
I'm not going with Florida here. I mean, if I would have taken Florida, if I would love Florida, I would take them already last night in regulation. There was a reason why I did not take them. So I would lean with actually Islanders on the money line. It will be not as you guys, but I prefer Islanders here on the money line. I don't know why. I think they can handle Florida here, but that's not my bet, just a lean. And sign me on under, I think.
Under as well. Under 6.5. Yeah, with Panthers and Islanders, you lean that way. Okay, Jackets Rangers. I know you actually did bet this one already, and you got a really good line.
I gave out this last night. Yes, I gave out this last night in our show. I mean, before the best bet at minus 105 regulation Rangers. Wow. So now it's like
minus 170 now in regulation. Yeah.
So I hope everyone who watched the show jumped on this early.
Serious closing line value right there.
Yeah. These are big ones. So yeah, Rangers here regulation for me.
There you go. And Anaheim, Detroit.
Oh man, man, this Anaheim team, guys. We've been on many shows with you all the time, and I'm telling you, Anaheim sucks. I don't know. You're telling me Anaheim don't suck. I don't like this Anaheim team. I mean,
not on this road trip. They've been good. That they have to suck on this road trip. That's for sure.
Yeah, well, but the line, minus 135.
Hey, my bets are pretty much for the most part off to a very good start. This one so far is not one of them, but even Betty Crocker burns the odd cake. As
this is the last game on the road for Ducks, right?
Yeah, last game.
Yes.
Yep.
And I mean, you have to go with Red Wings here. They just blew this game against the Hawks, and I mean, minus 135 is still not the price perhaps you would love to leave. But actually, the price has now the price is better on Red Wings because I was watching Red Wings last night. The regulation was like plus even money. Now it's plus 110.
Right.
So yeah, well. It's still obviously not priced as it should be. I think
I'm going to be on Detroit, but I'm also on the over in this.
I don't think Ducks is as that bad as the line shows, but
I like the draw here. We've seen 3 straight overtimes and 4 of the last 6 meetings. So.
Yeah, draw is a very nice play. So yeah, but I would agree with Alex in a draw. But why not to go with this over? I think the over is at 6 or 6.5.
6.5. Yeah,
6.5. Well, my book has 6. I don't know why, but it's in regulation. So I think this game pushes over. I mean, this Ducks team is just an over team lately. I mean, they have scorers and so on. So give me over in this game.
I agree with that. And Detroit's gone over. 3 straight Detroit games have gone over the total as well. So Vito looks like he's leaning over in that one. All right, great stuff. That's the Sunday edition of the Ice Guys. Great time because I know these NFL games, they're about to start. So great timing with that to wrap up the show. Thanks to everyone for joining us. Hit the like button on YouTube on the way out. We'll wrap up with best bets. Alex, we'll start with you. What do you like for best bet?
Yeah, I'm going to go with that Rangers first period puck line. I got it at plus 108. You can find plus 105. It's widely available here. I think they get up to a hot start against Columbus today. And, somebody mentioned in the chat about Martin Jones is not confirmed for Seattle. I still like that regulation, but that's the reason why I did not make my best bet. We're going to go with the Blue Shirts. Laying the half a goal in the first period is the best bet tonight.
There you go. Rangers first period puck line. Best bet here for Alex B. Smith. Vito, what do you got for best bet? It might be those Blue Shirts too, I have a feeling.
Yeah, Blue Shirt, but now the price is
not at the price.
That's funny, It's the funny price here we got, and give me. We have Igor in the net, right?
Yes.
So
should. Yep.
We have Igor in the net, and Blue Jackets under 2.5 goals. Give me that one.
There you go. That's another way to get after it. You're right. Columbus team total under 2.5 for Vito. Oh, he just disappeared, but that's okay. He gave us his best bet. Jackets team total under 2.5. My best bet for this show, it's going to be with the. I was going to go Rangers team total, but I'm going to go with Anaheim Detroit now. I'm going to go with that over 6.5 plus 100. I see even money's out there at a couple spots. Anaheim Detroit over 6.5 plus 100. End of a road trip, Anaheim. I think they could be sloppy defensively. Hell, that's been the way they've played most of this road trip. Detroit's gone over the total 3 straight games. They've played some higher scoring hockey. I think both teams will find the back of the net here. Ducks, Red Wings, over 6.5, plus 100. My best bet for this Sunday card. That'll wrap up.
So you got my under, right? I got disconnected,
Jackets total under 2.5 exactly for Vito and with his best bet. Great stuff. That's the show. We thank everybody for joining us. Hit the like button on the way out. We appreciate it. A reminder, we've got our first live betcast Tuesday night, 7 p.m. Eastern. Make sure you remember that, our first betcast of the season. So if you want to join us on the betcast Tuesday night, DM any one of us, and we will make sure we send you the link before the betcast starts. So looking forward to that for the first time this year.
Yeah, also check out the Patreon page, patreon.com/IceGuys. We got a bunch of stuff we're working on this week. I'll have my updated goalie charts coming up by tonight. We've also got a few fun video things we're going to be working on this week. We've got some more stuff that's coming along the way. So definitely a good time to subscribe. You get the daily card there as well, the podcast. Everything's all lined up. Patreon.com/IceGuys, just $10 a month.
Yeah, and rest of the viewers also, make sure you give me a follow on the Twitter.
Yes.
I'm running my Discord
follow
channel.
all of us. Yeah.
Last night actually was running a live action.
I saw that live Twitter,
Vegas
live bet.
and Avalanche. So did pretty well there. So yeah, make sure you give me a follow there. You can get some nice live betting there and a lot of good perks.
Yeah, exactly. Live betting. Vito was tweeting out live plays for the late games last night. So make sure you follow him at Vito Picks, of course, on Twitter. Great stuff. Alex B. Smith, we thank you. For Vito as well. I'm Ian Cameron. Have a great by the way, the Ice Guys podcast, make sure you check that out. We're live 7 days a week, Monday to Friday, 2 p.m. Eastern, Saturday, Sunday, noon Eastern. But download the podcast if you can't watch us live. Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, and more. Download the Ice Guys podcast when you can't watch the show live. Have a great Sunday. Enjoy the games and good luck. And we will talk to you again tomorrow on Monday for another edition of the Ice Guys presented by National Hockey Now.